Welcome to For Real I Do with Brittany Ellis, the unfiltered side of weddings. From planning truths to vendor insights to navigating design, culture, and family dynamics, this is for couples who crave clarity and vendors ready to elevate. Your insider pass with just a little oversharing. All right, everyone, welcome back. Thank you so much again for tuning in for another amazing episode. I have Khusbu with me, who is one of my actual past brides who I think you were married 2 years ago, 3 years ago. How long has it
3
been?
now, which is crazy. I know. Time
Time
flies.
literally, yeah. It's really cool for those tuning in. Khusbu actually had a really amazing fusion wedding. So her husband, which I'll have her share a little bit about, is Italian. So they did a very fun fusion Italian Indian wedding, and it was all the things and fabulous. But Khusbu, before I put you on the hot seat, because I have to before we dive into today's topic, maybe just share a little bit about, married life and where you're at right now with Mike.
Yes, I would love to. So, Michael and I, shortly after the wedding, bought a house. So, we dove right into that married life with a new house. And then we got 3 pets back to back because we just wanted to go all
Love it.
in with the suburb life. Yeah. So, we went in with the idea that we're going to get a dog. I've always wanted a dog. I never grew up with any pets. So, it was always a dream, like, "I'm gonna have my own house, I'm gonna get a dog." So, we went to some adoption events, but fell in love with a cat, which I funny enough, like, always was scared of cats, but this cat was really speaking to me. So, we got the cat, but I still wanted a dog.
Right.
So, we still were, going to these adoption events and ended up finding another little puppy, a Cavapoo, and then a year later, we got another dog for my dog. So we ended up with 3 pets now.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Real life, right? I used to have
I
2
know.
dogs simultaneously, and that was honestly a lot, and we did end up getting another dog after 15 years of having the same dog. Oh my gosh, it was a lot. So anyway, here we
It
are.
is. Here we are. I feel like once you, like, adjust your schedule for a pet, it's, like, almost easy to just bring another one along, and we're lucky they all love each other. They're like the sibling love. We love
The
it.
things. That's so good. I'm so glad it's not a nightmare situation where,
No,
like,
I know.
I
Can you imagine?
do. Okay, very cool. So listen, I wanna put you on the hot seat because for anyone that's listening in, like, Kuzma's been through it, y'all. She has been in the
I
thick
know.
of planning. She absolutely knows what it's like to be a bride, juggle your real life, try to get things done, cross-checking things off your list on a month-to-month basis, all while having a multicultural event, and then things we're gonna get into later. Also, while trying to teach people, like, just some of the cultural things that we wanna make sure that we bring to life as part of the weekend, right? So, she's been there, she's been in your spot right now, and so really, I just wanna ask you a couple rapid fire questions, which is,
Of course.
having already been there, are there any things that you would have done differently? Like, having the information, the knowledge that you have now, is there anything that you would have done differently from the beginning? Like, I'm curious, and you can put us on the chopping block too, but I would love to know because I really wanna give brides advice out there who are maybe just still in this season of planning and trying to get all the things done.
Yes. So, I mean, first and foremost, I'm so grateful that I did end up going with you guys and going with a wedding planning team because that was not my original plan. I always was thinking, okay, yeah, I'll tackle it or I'll try to tackle it on my own. But the same year that I was getting married was the same year that I just moved to Orlando from Chicago. So if I was trying to do that transition on top of planning this wedding, I don't think I would have survived. So I am so grateful that I found you guys and had you guys part of the team. But one main thing that I would have done differently was waited to book any vendors until I had you guys part of the team because reviewing contracts and vendor contracts, I've never done that before. So I kind of just reviewed the couple vendors that I booked before hiring you guys. I just reviewed the contracts to the best of my ability and what I thought I should be reviewing. But there's so many details that go into reviewing contracts that I had no knowledge of. And it did bite me in the butt for one of my vendors. We did have to end up replacing that vendor because there was a miscommunication and was it written in the contract. And we did have to kind of scramble last minute, which I know would have been avoided if we just waited and had you guys first and then kind of proceeded from there. But I feel like I could speak for a majority, like, you don't plan these big, huge events often. So to know exactly what you should be looking for, what you should be asking, I didn't know. So
Right. And it's so funny because I feel like a lot of my brides are very, I would say, type A's, if you will. Like they're not incapable of getting things done and checking things off the list. It really is that we always say the real work can begin once you've actually like hired your vendors because now we've got like the players on the bench and now we can actually like start to like put things together, communicate with each other and map this thing out. But I think that's really, really helpful for brides out there. So bottom line, try not to bite off more than you can chew just because, like, why? Like, at some point, you also wanna enjoy just being engaged, which I think is
exactly. And I was just so excited. Me and my husband both were. We're like, let's do it. Let's plan the wedding. Like, we want to get everyone together. So I kind of just like jumped in without really taking the strategic approach that you guys do take with us and kind of go through like, well, this is not important right now. Let's worry about the location. Like, where are you getting married? Let's worry about that. So,
this is not a paid podcast, by the way. We did not pay Khusbu to come on
no.
and say this, so we appreciate you. It's very kind. So one of the things I do want to talk about, talking about vendors and just like people maybe not being as reliable or things to that end. Obviously, one of the biggest things I want to talk to you about is, your new company and the void that I feel like you've really filled in the market, which is why when I found out, I was like, I got to get her on here. So accessibility, I think for vendors is really hard. So true story. I had a bride recently who hired a dance choreographer. And that particular choreographer, they booked a time to get together via Zoom, and they ended up ghosting them and we like never heard from them again. And it was like, it's already such a like a thing that if you're not sort of used to it or you didn't grow up sort of doing dance or anything like that, it's already daunting to begin with. So you're like looking forward to it from a point of an excitement. But it's also that if you have like zero skill level like myself, it's also very daunting. So maybe I'd just love for you to share a little bit about your new company and really what you provide and do for couples, how you're kind of filling that void.
Yes, no, I would love to. So I've always loved dancing. And in high school, I started teaching Bali fusion classes to kids at a local studio and then moved on to college and even did competitive dancing in college. So dancing has always been part of my life and always been a happy place. And because of this, my family and friends just naturally assumed that, she loves dancing. So she must love coordinating and organizing dances for
Why not?
our
Great.
family events. She must love it. Oh my God. But truthfully, I absolutely hated organizing them. And the main reason is that there's just so much that goes into planning a dance performance more than people realize. Just like, planning a wedding, there's so much that goes into it, the little details that you don't really think about until you're doing it, right? So as an organizer, you have to, of course, pick the songs and you have to pick the songs that fit the group. Are you the family of the bride? Are you the family of the groom? And then, of course, just fit the event in total, right? And then you have to pick sections of those songs that will blend in with each other. So there's no awkward transitions when you are mixing the songs together. And then after that, you of course have to choreograph and you want to choreograph in a way that works for all the skill levels. Like you mentioned, like there's dancers in the family and there's people that hate dancing, they don't dance and they just start doing it because they know it's part of the culture and the tradition. And then finally, I think the hardest part and the part that I dreaded the most was coordinating practice, in person practice to make sure everyone can make it, which nowadays is impossible. Of course, there's going to be people that miss practices because life is crazy, right? Life is busy. So I think once you have a group that starts missing practice, then your next practice is spent catching them up. So if you think about it, you're in this constant state of
Mhm.
stress up
Right.
until the last moment. And I do mean the last moment because I'm sure you've gotten requests and you've seen that there's people still learning and teaching the dance the day of the performance
Right.
because that's just how it's become, right? We're in a different world, a different generation now. And these pain points really started to create a little seed in the back of my head, which actually really blossomed when I moved to Orlando a few years ago, because I was still being asked to organize wedding performances for family members. So I was really able to explore this virtual idea that I've had for a little while now. And I was able to expand it and create the product that's out there today. So I'm grateful that I was able to test it out when I moved over here.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those things too. And just to piggyback off your point, it's even, I think, more of a challenge when you have what your situation was, which I'm not saying Italians don't have dance styles, so don't quote me on that. It's not that I don't think it's just that maybe culturally, maybe it wasn't as embedded for them, right? As maybe your friends and family. So I know that when you had to even do that for your own event, right? I know that that was also just a stepping into something that was new and different. Do you feel like that experience too just kind of shaped like, oh, like if there's a fusion wedding, like these people definitely are going to need help and support and getting on the same page?
Yes, and of course, that's, like you said, very close and dear to my heart. I think we're in an interesting time right now because a lot of first and second generation Indian Americans are getting married, and that's bringing a whole new dynamic into the mix. There's a lot more interracial marriages like myself. There's bridal party members who aren't South Asian. There's family and friends who are now spread apart, or you live away from your family and friends. So, one of my biggest motivations with BollyRhythm has always been to help keep our tradition and culture alive while adapting to this new generation that I'm part of. So I wanted to provide a more modern, more accessible way for people to stay connected to this tradition, no matter where they are or who's involved. So,
Hmm.
no matter if you're marrying outside the culture, no matter if you have non South Asian bridal party members, or just simply don't have anyone in the family that does choreograph or knows how to coordinate dances. Our virtual platform just gives you a way to honor this beautiful part of our culture without, that extra stress that comes along with it.
Yeah. I mean, curious if I'm a new bride and I'm coming to you and I'm saying, okay, like, here's really where my family's from. Here's some of the things we want to incorporate. My husband is, I don't know, American and he has no experience and no natural rhythm. How do you usually start? Like, if I'm a bride and this is a new experience for me, am I simply going to log into the wedding website and I'm able to just kind of browse, pick and choose what dances resonate with me? Or is it more of a custom approach? Or how does that really work? Like, walk me through that process a little bit.
Yeah, so when I was creating BollyRhythm, I really thought about it from two perspectives. I thought about it if you're the organizer and then if you are the performer. So, from the organizer's point of view, I really wanted to simplify everything that makes the dance planning stressful, everything that I mentioned previously from personal experience. So, we did design the dance library where your tutorials are so you can filter them. So, you could filter them by skill level. So whether if you want to search for accessible low movement tutorials or you want to search beginner or intermediate tutorials. You can also filter them by group. So if you want to search bride songs, groom songs, family of the bride songs, this just instantly helps you narrow down your song selection if you don't know where to start. And then we also carefully selected the song cuts so they can seamlessly blend together and you don't have any awkward transitions when you are mixing them together. So it just takes the guesswork out of, okay, I like this song, but which part of this song should I do or dance to make sure that I could transition into my next song after that.
Mhm.
And then if you are an organizer, you also have a personalized dashboard where you can send view only links to the performers. And you
Mhm.
could even create performances. Say you want to do a bride performance with your
Mhm.
bridesmaids. and you
Mhm.
pick out a few tutorials. You can
Yeah.
organize them by 1, 2, and 3 and send it to your bridesmaids and say, "Hey, this is the dance. This is the order we're doing the dance."
Mhm.
And they will go ahead and learn it in that order, and there'll be no confusion in, okay, when is this dance and when do I come on stage or go off stage? It's all done through that personalized dashboard. And then
Okay.
on the performer side, each tutorial was created to just feel like an in-person class. So each of them is divided into very small 2 to 3 sections, and each of them have built-in practice breaks. So it really guides you through learning the entire dance. And the videos are only 20 to 25 minutes long because I know not everyone has 1 to 2 hours or wants to spend 1 to 2 hours learning a dance. It was important to me to keep everything concise, structured, but not too short where it feels rushed, just long enough to be comfortable. And you're able to learn at your own pace and at your own time. You could learn after work, you could learn during a lunch break and just spend 10, 15 minutes at a time. So it's not as daunting as you said, especially if it's not part of your culture or if you've never done a dance before.
Right. Absolutely love how easy and on the go that it can be and how user friendly that it is because for brides that are listening right now, if you are trying to incorporate this into your wedding weekend, and we'll get to timeline and order in a little bit because Khusbu has a lot of insight on that as well when you're developing like that Sangeet flow and schedule and the best practices for that. But literally, there's nothing easier than being able to get on your phone and look at something. And I agree, just being able to spend like 5 minutes at something because someone who has definitely like no skill level here, being able to jump in and look at something when I'm like cooking dinner or I don't know, like 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, whatever it is, and plug and jumping in when I'm able to. When you're asking 20 of your nearest and dearest friends to perform in something with you, this is literally going to give you essentially that end result, right? And so I feel like it's brilliant and it's such a huge help in the market because otherwise it just becomes almost like impossible. And I as the planner, I can tell you, we have rooms dedicated for dance practice space. We literally build them into our venue contracts because we already know we're going to need them. And I have seen it. I've seen the wedding party when quite frankly, I'm not dogging on like do a final practice rehearsal, but hours in this dance practice room could have been at the pool and hanging out the cabana because they already like did all of that. Maybe just run through it a couple of times, but I think that your platform really almost like saves them like having to be stressed out on the day of the event where they feel unprepared or they didn't get any time or it's almost like you're trying to like memorize it in 8 hours before the performance that night.
Exactly. And as a bride and a groom, you spend so long curating and making these events, right? You don't want your bridal party to be practicing the entire time. You want them to be by your side and enjoying it with you.
Right. Right.
Another thing I wanted to point out for these tutorials, they're not meant to completely get rid of live group practices because someone like my mom, she loves getting together and she loves, doing the live practices. This is just to take away that stress around those live practices. So if someone can't attend practice, they can just learn on their own and then come to the next practice and you guys go use the video to learn all together. So it just removes that stress of having that coordinator, having to organize everything.
Yeah.
And you can still do live group practices and have fun doing them without the stress of having to teach everybody and catch
Right.
them up. So,
It's really great because it almost puts you in the perspective of you're not having to also like again work your own event to a certain extent. You do have some like a platform there that really can just streamline that, excuse me, the entire process. So I do want to transition talking a little bit to, we're timeline queens. We really care a lot about effectiveness and flow and the order. As a choreographer or as someone who has built this incredible platform, like what tips or support do you have for brides out there? Because I still have brides who are getting married literally next month and they're trying to put together their Sangeet program and they're like,
yeah.
what do you think the flow should be, Brittany? And like, I'm like, I don't know. Like, how many things do you have? And it's not that your friends and family aren't there to obviously celebrate you and they're excited for the moment, but sometimes like when is too much enough, right? And you
Yes.
want to keep that energy modulation going. So what are your recommendations for that?
Yeah, so I think we've all sat through performances. You've sat through a lot of performances by now that are so amazing in the beginning. They're high energy and you're cheering, you're excited. And then there comes a point in the performance where you're about to take out your phone. The uncle next to you might be dozing off. I feel like there is a right? There's a fine line, especially right now because I mean our attention span, mine included, is not the best, right? You are in this constant state of stimulation. I think I think my good rule of thumb, and I told my family this for my wedding as well, is that if you are doing a large group dance for the wedding where people are coming in and out and there's new faces that are coming in and out, I think if you do a max of 6 minutes, you could keep it entertaining because there's a change of people. But if you're doing a solo dance or the same group is remaining on stage, I would say keep that max of 3 to 4 minutes because you also have to think that that group or that solo person is staying on stage and they're doing the entire dance, they're gonna start getting tired and their energy is gonna start going down, and once the performer's energy is going down, the audience is taking out their phones. They're spacing out. They're not paying attention anymore. So, I definitely think giving your, guests that are performing for you a time limit is a great way to already reduce the length of the performances that you're gonna have at the wedding, and I think so it's nice because 'cause we've been transitioning into the Sangeet having more performances now than the reception. I think that is nice because the Sangeet is more, easygoing, people are standing, it's not as formal as a reception, and the reception, I think, because people are sitting, there's, of course, usually drinking, it's the last event. People aren't really appreciative of the performances. So having majority of the performances at the Sangeet is definitely the way to go. And like you mentioned, brides are wondering like what the flow should be or how they should structure it. I think if you have a lot of performances, and I've been seeing this a lot, which I've been loving as a guest, is that maybe start off with a couple performances as the guests are coming in. So if you have singers that are going to do performances, I would start off with singing. The guests are mingling, they're taking pictures, have them do the singing performance. I also like having kids go first because they kinda lose interest, and sometimes they're like, "I did wanna perform yesterday, but today I'm over it." So, I would definitely get the kids in first, and then in the middle, before your Ross and free dancing, you could have the rest of the performances, but I think that section should be the max of 45 minutes, because more than 45 minutes, then again, our attention spans aren't there anymore. We wanna get up and start dancing and eating and moving. Oh,
Right, definitely. I would say that, I absolutely agree with that, and I wanted to get your take too when you're structuring this out and you have everything mapped out. As someone who is a bride, and I don't think this actually happened on your wedding day, but what advice would you have for brides who have a lot of impromptu family members that like to say on the day of the event after we had a year of planning of, "Hey, I'm gonna just pop in and I've got a performance that I'm gonna do tonight," or, "Hey, I'm gonna sing tonight. I think that I'm gonna go ahead and just perform." What do you feel like? How would you handle that, I guess, as a bride? Like, is that a no-no for you? Is that like absolutely not? Like, you did not let us know, so
no.
you're in, or how would you handle that?
It's funny because Brittany, I definitely did have that, and my
Did you?
favorite excuse during my wedding year was, Eventrics or my wedding planning team, like, they told me I have this strict schedule, like, the vendors are only there about to this amount of time. Like, I'm sorry. Like,
Yeah,
that I wish I could use that excuse in my real life right now.
totally. You should blame it on your planner. Be like, you really should go talk to them. The ones running the
I'm
with the
sorry, like,
iPad.
It's funny because I knew my family, like, the people that wanted to sing or add additional dance, they're not gonna come talk to you because, A, they know how busy you are, they saw you running around,
They're
so they're
gonna
not
go do
gonna be
DJ booth.
like, "Hey" Yeah, they're gonna be like, "Hey, I have a performance." So I knew they weren't gonna do that,
Sure,
and it was the truth. It was that we had a strict schedule,
sure.
and the food could only be out at a certain amount of time for safety reasons, like, we did have a
Yeah.
schedule, so it was my favorite excuse, and I used it often. It was in my back pocket.
Yeah, and little do they know, I always have a planner at the DJ booth because we know that people are gonna go there. It's
Right.
like, "So what was that?" So funny. Definitely, I think that also just pro tip for brides out there and something that Kusbu just kinda mentioned, a lot of people don't know this, but venues usually do have like a food time limit, and some venues are a little less stringent than others. But some properties are like, it's 2 hours. The minute your food station's open, it's like 2 hours. And so you're trying to navigate this program and then when's the perfect time to sort of like have the food stations open for that mix and mingle. So just make sure that you're mapping that out as well as part of that experience when you're considering how many performances you have, what's the order of that, and things to that end. Because obviously, if you're gonna do, Ross or Garba and you got all that sort of stuff going on, you wanna make sure that you've, like, already eaten and you're not gonna miss out on the
Yes.
the fun and activities as well, for sure.
And one thing that I really like that we got positive feedback on is during that midpoint when we started doing the longer section of performances, we did provide a little snack. We actually provided popcorn to our guests. So it's not like you're taking away the food stations and then there's nothing because we, of course, love to continue feeding our guests. Just having a little snack in between before you open up the dessert station is, I think, a nice touch. And I know we got a lot of positive feedback about.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely, it is all about hospitality at
Yes,
these weddings. So just when you thought that you were done with dinner, you're not. We've got always
we got
goodies
more.
around that, absolutely. Oh, curious on what advice that you would give brides who are currently in the thick of their planning journeys right now?
I think the biggest advice I would give is give yourself and your partner some grace because this is probably the first major event that you and your partner are planning together. And usually it's not just one event. You guys are planning three, four events at once. So you're planning a festival in my eyes. And there's going to be bumps, there's going to be disagreements. That's all normal and part of the process. I think what I try to do during the wedding planning process is just kind of bring myself back to, okay, we're doing this to celebrate our union and our love. So even though I want things a certain way, this is my partner's wedding too, right? So um I know, Brittany, I've told you before that Michael is a big idea guy. So during the wedding planning, he's like, well, this would be cool. Let's do this. And I'm just like, this is not how I work. And this is not how I plan. So just kind of finding that happy medium and giving yourself grace and giving your partner grace because it's all about love at the end, right? It's all about your union.
I love that because, we do have, I feel like with most couples, there's always that person that is the type A checklist person. And then there's the person with not the random ideas, but just the ideas, right? They have, they're more visionaries, which I absolutely love. We call that the parking lot, where we're going to put everything in the parking lot. And then we're going to come back to the parking lot like once a month. And we're going to sort through like what ideas do we want to pick up and like implement, and what ideas do we want to let go. But I think it's important. And I honestly will say, I think both you and Mike did a really great job of hearing each other's ideas out and balancing that out really well. And that's really what it's all about for couples, right? Is I agree with you. I didn't even think about like it is like you're planning a festival because it's like think about it. It's like transportation,
Yes.
accommodations. It's, basically you're thinking of their breakfast, lunch, and dinner for, 2 to 3 days. And then there's all these other events in between. So you're so right. Oh my gosh, it's like planning a
It's a
festival.
festival.
So I'm curious, Kusbu, maybe you can share a little bit more about how brides can find you. I know that you have some fun potential giveaways for our lovely EW brides. So maybe just share a little bit more about that.
Yes. So our website is bollyrhythm.com and you could find us you could contact us through the website. And I've also, like you said, put 3 packages together specifically for Eventrics couples. Package 1 is going to be just a 10% off of any order that you do as a Eventrics bride or groom. And then a package 2 is going to be the Eventrics family bundle, where you get 4 tutorials, a custom mix creation, and a virtual practice session with your choreographer for 15% off. And then we have a special Eventrix Bride package, which is special to me because I know what performing as a bride could mean to someone. I have 3 tutorials, custom mix, a virtual practice session for a 10% off. And then I also add in a additional virtual practice session free of charge just to make sure that it is perfect for your big day.
Yeah, y'all, if you are not taking advantage of this, I don't know, because if you have a event coming up, would you say in, even in just in a couple months, right? And you're really needing or, oh, I've really been lagging on this. I want to jump on this. I mean, this is definitely the perfect time to do that. I
Yes.
was curious, in your professional opinion, when is the appropriate time for a bride to reach out? Obviously we always say we love more time, right? More time the better. But in your case, knowing that you've been the bride with all the to-dos, when is that appropriate time to start, giving this some thought and planning this out so it doesn't feel, as daunting?
Yeah, so I think a good time to reach out is probably 3 to 4 months before. And the reason I say this is I remember during my wedding and planning with you guys that things started to not slow down, but you didn't have as many to do tasks leading up. Hopefully, you don't have any to do tasks leading up that are major. There
Right.
are little things, of course, that are going to be happening up until the events, but majority of the big tasks are completed. So I think that's a good time to finally be like, okay, let's focus on our first dance. Let's focus on my performance as a bride or a groom. So I think that 3 to 4 month mark would be a good time to reach out or browse our website.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I would agree as well. I think that's really brilliant because brides, you got to get on it. Ultimately, it's going to be here before you know it, and you don't want to save it for the last minute for sure. Khusbu, is there any additional insight or information or guidance for couples that you'd like to share, or anything that you feel like we missed?
I think one tip that I do have regarding performances, if you are performing at your own event, is I think there's this misconception that you have to go last. But if you're nervous about your performance and you know you won't be able to enjoy the event until you're just done with your performance, go first. Go whenever you want to go. You're the guest of honor. No matter if you go first, middle, last, like the audience is going to enjoy it. Everyone's there for you. Everyone loves you and wants to celebrate you. Go whenever will make you feel confident and comfortable. I did not go as the finale in my own Sangeet like performances because I knew the longer I waited, I would get more nervous, especially just sitting and watching the performances. I was just going to keep getting in my head and not enjoy the performances that my family worked so hard for. So that is my one tip. Go whenever you want. There's no fast and hard rule that you have to go as the finale.
Love that, because you could totally flip the script and say, hey, listen, as the main attraction, because it is your weekend, that might even pull people in, right? And get
Yes,
people more excited too. So I actually love the
exactly.
potential of like flipping it around. Because it's
Exactly.
something different. You don't have to you almost expect that, the couple's gonna go last. I actually really love that for
Yeah, so
sure.
it's kind of like a bigger surprise if you go first or just kind of randomly in the middle.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Kuzma, thank you so much for sharing all about BollyRhythm. I mean, honestly, I think it's brilliant, and I would encourage any couple out there that is definitely wanting to really cultivate and just keep this amazing tradition alive to be able to check out what you've got going on your website and on your Instagram and all the things.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, and I can't wait to talk to all your couples.
You're welcome.